So section six is all about learning. So what is learning? Learning can be any long-lasting change in behavior. It can be like habituation, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and social learning theory. So what is habituation? Habituation can be one of the simplest form of learning. It can be like learning through repetition. For example, whenever you are just trying to study and just be prepared for one of your exams, and suddenly you can just hear a lot of noise. When you would look to the street, you can just see that, oh, construction people, they are just working in the neighborhood and they can cause a lot of noises. You can be mad for just half an hour, you can be just distracted for like 2 hours, but eventually you're gonna live with that because you're gonna just habituate with that situation. And this is the same case whenever you are just again trying to just study for an exam and you can hear a dog, it just barking all the time. You know that it is what it is and you have to just focus on your work. So again, you're gonna just habituate with that situation. Another point here is classical conditioning by Pavlov. It is all about learning through association. Um, you can read this description by yourself, but instead of just reading this page, I will go to the next page and I would just try to describe the whole idea of classical conditioning based on this picture. So these two pictures on the top, they are all based on before conditioning situation. Picture number one, the left one, is just based on unconditioned stimulus, which can be food. Food can bring saliva in dog. However, neutral stimulus, such as bell, like just ringing a bell, has no response on the dog. So what about the conditioning situation? You can see that whenever you are just pairing food and bell, you can see unconditioned response in the dog, saliva, right? However, whenever you are just trying to try to use the bell again, like the first time you use the bell, you couldn't see any saliva. But after pairing the bell with the food, you can see that the bell itself can bring saliva. So the bell, which was a neutral stimulus before, now it is a conditioned stimulus and it can bring a conditioned response for you. So this is the whole idea of classical conditioning by Pavlov. So you can see that at the end of the day, the dog, I mean, Pavlov's dog is just getting so fat because, I mean, he did a lot of experience with them. So, I mean, who knows? So, they're going to be one idea with classical conditioning, extinction. Whenever, for example, you would just ring the bell all the time and you wouldn't expose the dog to food, they would forget the whole connection between food and bell, and there wouldn't be any saliva based on the bell itself. If you want to have the saliva again, you have to pair the bell and the food all the time to get the response that you want. Here is a YouTube video that you can just check it out and just understand what's going on with classical conditioning. But I'm very positive that you understood everything so far because the picture is just talking itself. So now let's talk about operant conditioning. Operant conditioning by Skinner is just, I mean, the basis for majority of human behavior. It has four different sections, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. So what is positive reinforcement? Positive reinforcement is just presence of something that can increase likelihood of a specific behavior. Negative reinforcement can be just removing something that can increase likelihood of a behavior. Positive punishment can be presence or just having something that can just decrease likelihood of behavior. And negative punishment can be just removing something that can decrease the likelihood of that behavior again. One point here is whenever you have positive, you have presence. Whenever you have negative, you have removing. Okay. Whenever you have reinforcement, you have increasing. Whenever you have punishment, you have decreasing. You can just code it like that and just understand the whole idea. There's going to be definitely a question either in your quiz or your test or maybe both, who knows. Here you can see some example about positive and negative reinforcement. Just try to practice them and just understand everything. You can also watch a video about this and just be master in operant conditioning. So the main difference between Skinner and Pavlov is the way Pavlov framed classical conditioning. It's just based on involuntary behavior. Like literally the dog was not like doing anything intentionally. They were just exposed to something and they would produce some sort of saliva, right? Like some sort of innate behavior. Yet, in operant conditioning, we can see that the animal itself, they are voluntarily acting to get a response. Like they are doing something and they are actually experiencing some sort of consequences for that. So they are not passive. In operant conditioning, they are active, yet in classical conditioning, they are kind of passive. I hope it makes sense. The last one is social learning theory by Bandura. I really like this theory because it's just saying that you shouldn't necessarily experience some sort of consequences. You can just see other people and just understand what might be the consequences. For example, just imagine you are going to Target to just get some food or I don't know, whatever you want to get. But you know that you shouldn't steal from a grocery shop because if you would do that, there might be some consequences. It doesn't mean like you actually stole something before. It actually means like you saw other people, you observed other people who did that before and they went to jail or they actually experienced some sort of bad consequences in their life, either fining or I don't know, something else. But you just observe that situation and you are trying to avoid any sort of stealing from grocery shop, hopefully. Another point here is modeling. I feel like everyone has a model in their head. So that kind of model can be someone you really appreciate, you really find them attractive, relatable, and you are just trying to imitate them. For example, you have a big sister, your sister is a lawyer, and you are just trying your best to be a lawyer too because you actually saw them to just study a lot, try to be best all the time, and now they are just enjoying that. So this is like the whole idea of Bandura, observational learning. You're gonna observe someone and you're gonna just practice to be them.